Look at this map. Europe and the United States, same scale. Now hold that in your head for a second. Because in Europe, budget airlines don't just survive, they print money. Ryanair thrives, EasyJet keeps going. The model works. In the United States, the same idea is falling apart in public. Spirit just posted a negative 7.5% operating margin. JetBlue's struggling. Southwest is getting pulled into a fight with activist investors. And here's the part that messes with people. 8 years ago, in 2016, Spirit had a 24% operating margin, higher than Delta, higher than United. They were selling the cheapest seats in the sky and still making more money than the premium airlines. Today, passenger numbers are at all-time records. Planes are full, and Spirit is still losing money on every flight. So everyone asks, why did budget airlines fail? Wrong question. The right question is, how did they ever succeed in the first place? Because the answer isn't bad management. It's not COVID. It's not even really competition. It's physics. It's distance. A country that's about 2,800 miles wide, trying to run a business model built for 500-mile hops. In Europe, that model fits the map. In America, it never really did. Go back to 2016. Spirit, 24% operating margin. Allegiant, 30%. JetBlue, 20%. Southwest, 20%. Those are wild numbers in any industry. For airlines, almost unheard of. Now compare that to the legacy carriers, the premium airlines. Delta peaked at 19.6%, United at 13.6%. So just sit with that. The airlines charging the lowest fares were making the highest profits. It looked like the budget model had won. Like the future of American flying was cheap seats and no frills. Now jump to 2024. Spirit, negative 7.5%. Frontier, 5.6%. JetBlue, barely positive. Meanwhile, Delta and United are back up around 10%. Comfortable, stable. So what happened between 2016 and now? The obvious answer is COVID. Passenger volumes collapsed. Airlines bled cash. The whole industry shook. But there's a problem with that explanation. Passenger volumes in the United States fully recovered by summer 2023. They hit an all-time record, and they're on track to beat it again. People want to fly more than ever. So if demand is fine, if planes are full, why are budget airlines collapsing? COVID hurt everyone, but Delta recovered. United recovered. They're back to pre-pandemic profitability. The budget carriers recovered from COVID, and then they started declining again. So something else is happening, something structural. Spirit has an explanation. In their investor reports, they say, the competitive environment remains challenging due to the elevated capacity in many of the markets we serve. Translation? Other airlines are flying too much. Too many seats chasing too few passengers. And to be fair, there's truth in that. After COVID, business travel didn't fully come back. Zoom replaced a lot of cross-country flights. But leisure travel? It exploded. So the legacy airlines pivoted. They started pouring flights into Vegas, Miami, Orlando, places Spirit used to own. Las Vegas saw a 10% jump in flights compared to pre-COVID. New York's JFK, a business hub, still has fewer flights than before. That story makes sense. Except, the numbers don't get you all the way there. Spirit's load factor, the percentage of seats filled, dropped from 84.7% in 2015 to 81.3% today. That's a decline, but it's not a cliff. Revenue per seat is also down slightly, from 10.08 cents per seat mile to 9.63. Again, meaningful, but not enough to explain going from 24% profit to losing money on every flight. Then you hit this line in their reports, CASM, cost per available seat mile. Basically, what it cost Spirit to fly one seat, 1 mile. In 2015, it was around 8 cents. In 2021, still around 8. Then, in 2022, it jumps to 11.67 cents. That's roughly a 45% explosion in a single year. And this is where people misunderstand the phrase low-cost carrier. It doesn't mean cheap tickets for you. It means low operating costs for them. That's the whole model. Spend less to run the flight than Delta or United, so you can charge less and still profit. But if a low-cost carrier loses its low cost, it doesn't have a model anymore. It's just a worse version of Delta. So what drove costs up? That's where things get interesting. Spirit's cost explosion? They blame fuel, and they're not wrong. In 2016, oil was around $40 a barrel. By March 2022, it was over $80. Spirit's fuel costs jump about 45% in a single year. Now, here's the obvious question. Every airline buys the same fuel. Delta pays the same price per gallon as Spirit. So why does it hurt the budget carriers more? This is where the map comes back. Compare two routes. Ryanair, Dublin to London, 280 miles. Spirit, New York to Miami, 1,280 miles. On that short European route, fuel is about 25% of total operating costs. On the long US route, it's closer to 40%. And that difference isn't trivia. It's the whole story. Budget airlines squeeze everything they can control. They cut ground time. Planes land, people off, new people on, back in the air in about 25 minutes. They use secondary airports with cheaper fees. They pack in more seats. They push wages down. But fuel? Fuel costs what it costs. You don't get a discount for being budget. And here's the part that's easy to miss. Spirit pays the same per gallon as United, but that gallon becomes a bigger slice of Spirit's total costs, because Spirit already cut everything else to the bone. Think of it like a long road trip. You try to save money. You pack food. You skip hotels. You do everything cheap, but you still have to buy gas. On a short drive, gas is just one line item. On a 3,000-mile haul, gas becomes the budget. That's the geography trap. The longer the route, the less room you have to optimize. And America is big. New York to Los Angeles is about 2,500 miles. London to Rome is about 900. The average Spirit route is nearly 3 times longer than the average Ryanair route, which means the one cost they can't cut eats up 40% instead of 25. That 15-point difference, that's everything. When oil was $40 a barrel in 2016, budget airlines could live with it. When fuel hits 80, the math breaks. Fuel, the one thing they can't optimize. And in a country this size, it starts to kill them. Now, the fuel trap alone might have been survivable if everything else went right. It didn't. Budget airlines make money by keeping planes in the air, 12 hours a day, sometimes more. Minimal downtime. But that only works if flights stay on schedule. And in the United States right now, they don't. Problem 1, weather. Between 2000 and 2010, an average of 1 Category 4 or 5 hurricane hit the United States each year. Today, it's over 2 per year. And where do those hurricanes hit? Florida. Where does Spirit fly a huge chunk of its network? Florida, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Orlando. One major storm can ground flights for days. On razor-thin margins, those days are brutal. Problem 2, air traffic control. The FAA doesn't have enough controllers, so at peak times, planes sit on the tarmac waiting for clearance. Delays stack up. One late departure makes the plane late to the next city, and the next, and the next. And where's the shortage worst? Florida again. Problem 3, the Pratt & Whitney engine defect. About half of Spirit's fleet uses the A320neo with Pratt & Whitney's PW1100G engine. Efficient, modern, exactly what a budget airline wants. Then, Pratt & Whitney finds a flaw, possible cracking in turbine blades, so inspections get moved up, meaning planes come out of service more often than planned. 7 aircraft get grounded at first, and more keep rotating through inspections after that. JetBlue and Frontier use the same engines. They feel it too. But Spirit, with half the fleet affected, feels it hardest. Problem 4, utilization collapses. Before COVID, Spirit regularly flew aircraft about 12 hours a day during peak season. In 2023, they peak at 10.8 hours. Not because demand disappears. Demand is there, but because delays, weather, controller shortages, and maintenance keep planes on the ground. And this is where it compounds. When 40% of your costs are fuel you can't reduce, you have almost no margin for error. Delta can absorb a weather day. They charge higher fares. They have cushion. Spirit can't. One delayed flight in Fort Lauderdale ripples into the whole day because that same plane was supposed to fly to New York, then Chicago, then back to Miami. The schedule collapses, and every minute parked on the ground is lost revenue plus rising costs. Crew overtime, passenger compensation, hotel vouchers. The geography trap makes them vulnerable. These external shocks are what break them. Now jump back to Europe. Ryanair's average route is about 500 miles, short hops between dense cities. Dublin to London, London to Paris, Paris to Barcelona. They lean hard on secondary airports, Stansted instead of Heathrow, Beauvais instead of Charles de Gaulle. And in Europe, that works because the cities are close. Beauvais is about 50 miles from Paris. That's an hour on a bus. When Spirit uses Fort Lauderdale instead of Miami, fine, they're about 30 miles apart. But when you're flying 1,500 miles, that 30-mile difference doesn't matter. Distance is what matters. In Europe, if a plane gets stuck in London, Ryanair can swap with another aircraft nearby. Everything is within a few hundred miles. In the United States, Spirit's planes zigzag across the whole country. A plane grounded in Florida isn't easy to replace. The next available aircraft might be in Las Vegas. And weather behaves differently too. A storm in Spain doesn't automatically ground flights in Germany, but a hurricane in Florida can disrupt flights across the entire Southeast. The cascade spreads wider. Now the math again. At 500 miles, fuel is about 25% of costs. That leaves 75% you can optimize. At 2,500 miles, fuel is about 40%. Only 60% left to work with. That 15-point gap is the difference between a model that holds and a model that snaps. Ryanair isn't smarter than Spirit. They're not magically better managed. They just operate in a geography where this math can work. Same business model, two different maps. The budget airline model isn't broken. It just needs European geography, and the United States doesn't have it. So if American geography is the problem, can an American airline make itself more European? JetBlue thinks so, and their route map is starting to look like a strategy document, not a schedule. First move, they start cutting back transatlantic flights in winter, which sounds obvious. Fewer people fly to Europe in January. But JetBlue had been running year-round service, basically the same capacity in winter as summer. Almost no other airline does that, because demand drops hard when it gets cold. So now they pull those planes off the Atlantic and send them somewhere else. Puerto Rico, San Juan specifically. And this part is quietly smart. Puerto Rico is a US territory, but no major airline really treats San Juan like a true hub. Delta, United, American, they mostly run it like a spoke. San Juan to the mainland hub and back. Works fine for tourists, but there are about 3 million people living in Puerto Rico, and a lot of them want to fly to Latin America, Cancun, Colombia, the Dominican Republic. JetBlue is trying to turn San Juan into a real hub, not just connections to New York or Miami, regional routes across the Caribbean and Latin America. And notice what that does to the map. San Juan to Miami is about 1,000 miles. San Juan to Cancun is about 1,000. San Juan to New York is about 1,600. Still not short, but shorter. More like European-style distances. More manageable fuel math. Then there's the second move. The passenger mix changed after COVID. Leisure travelers started paying for premium seats more often than before. People want comfort on vacation. Most budget carriers can't really capture that. They're built for economy all the time. But JetBlue has a subfleet configured with premium cabins for their Europe routes. So in winter, when transatlantic demand is low, they redeploy those planes domestically. Premium leisure routes, higher revenue per seat, and again, shorter average distances than the brutal cross-country grind. They're not abandoning the budget model. They're trying to find American geography that behaves like European geography. Will it work? Nobody knows yet. But it's the most geographically aware bet anyone's making. Now look at Frontier. Their move is the opposite vibe. In May 2024, they announced something out loud that airlines usually only do quietly. They say they're abandoning the ultra-low-cost model, publicly. No more charging for seat assignments. No more charging for carry-ons. No more change fees. From the passenger side, they're basically saying, we're not that airline anymore. Bundled fares, like United, like Delta, like American. The budget airline, that isn't really budget now. And behind the scenes, they changed the way the airline actually moves. Frontier used to be operationally chaotic. A plane might do Salt Lake City to San Antonio, to New Orleans, to Cancun, to St. Louis over 2 days. No hubs, no clean reset points. So one delay doesn't just hurt one flight, it wrecks the whole chain. And there's no backup aircraft sitting around to catch the fall. One weather delay in New Orleans, and that St. Louis flight is basically doomed. Now, Frontier says they have 13 hubs, and 96.5% of their flights go through at least one hub. Most flights become simple out and back patterns, which means when something breaks, they can actually fix it. Swap a plane, swap a crew, stop the delay from spreading like a virus through the day. That should improve utilization. More hours in the air, fewer hours sitting, which lowers unit costs. But here's the catch. They're no longer low cost, even in spirit. They're charging more like the legacy carriers now. So if you're paying United prices, why fly Frontier? That's the question they haven't answered. Maybe they can't. Maybe this isn't a clever pivot. Maybe it's surrender, an admission that in American geography, the pure budget model doesn't hold. So they become something else, and hope that something else survives. And then there's Southwest, the original budget airline, the one that made this whole model famous. In the first quarter of 2024, they report a $231 million loss. Their first quarterly loss in 11 years outside of COVID. The CEO, Bob Jordan, comes out and says, basically, we'll change. They cut service to 4 cities entirely: Bellingham, Cozumel, Houston Hobby, Syracuse. They reduce capacity in Atlanta and Chicago. They cut 2,000 employees. And then the big one. They start looking at ending open seating. This is Southwest's identity. No assigned seats. Board in order. Pick your spot. People love it and hate it in equal measure, but it's Southwest, and now they're considering changing it because they're under pressure. But for some investors, even that wasn't enough. June 2024, Elliott Investment Management buys a $1.9 billion stake in Southwest, roughly 11% of the company. And Elliott isn't a passive investor. They're known for one thing: buying in, pushing hard, and forcing radical change. They publish a slide deck. They quote Southwest's founder, Herb Kelleher, about the need to adapt. Then they lay out the plan. Change the board, replace leadership. Bob Jordan says he won't step down, but the pressure keeps building. A few weeks later, Southwest files an 8K with the SEC. Their revenue per available seat mile is now expected to drop 4 to 4.5%, worse than what they projected before. A key health metric. And it's getting worse, not better. That strengthens Elliott's case. Now, there's a real gray area here. Some industry people warn that Elliott's short-term playbook could destroy what makes Southwest, Southwest. That company culture and customer loyalty aren't just inefficiencies, and that activist investors don't really understand airlines. But the other side says Southwest has been too slow to change, coasting on reputation while the world moved on. That open seating made sense in 1975, not in 2024. That employee-friendly policies are great until you're losing money and can't make payroll. There's no clean answer. But here's what everyone agrees on: Southwest can't stay the same. So the question becomes, do you want change from Bob Jordan, who knows the company but moves slow, or from Elliott, who moves fast but might not understand what they're burning down? And underneath that fight, the same constraint. American geography, long routes, fuel taking a bigger share of total costs, less room to optimize. Elliott can fire the CEO. They can end open seating. They can cut more routes, more employees, more cities. But they can't shrink the country. They can't change the fact that Dallas to Phoenix is 870 miles, while Ryanair's average route is about 500. The geography trap doesn't care who runs the airline. No one knows if Elliott wins this fight, but everyone knows Southwest can't keep doing what it's been doing. And nobody, not Bob Jordan, not Paul Singer, not anyone, has figured out how to make the budget airline model work long-term in American geography. Not when fuel is $80 a barrel, not when routes are this long, not when the one cost that matters most won't negotiate. Let's go back to the map. Europe and the United States, same scale. The real story isn't that budget airlines failed. It's that the ultra low-cost math was only stable when fuel was unusually cheap, in a country where routes are long. When fuel normalized, distance turned it into a different game. Because you can cut legroom, wages, turnaround time, but you can't cut miles. You can't shrink the country, and you don't get cheaper fuel just because you're budget. If you like videos that explain why things work in one place and break in another, subscribe. We do one like this every week, because sometimes the real question isn't what went wrong, it's was it ever built to work?